My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast. And
No. There's a third person. Let's do it again.
Okay. My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
And I'm Robert.
Yay! This is the Washing Up Podcast. How you going, Robert? Robert Harwood, everybody. Robert Harwood. It's so nice to have you on the show.
It's fun to be here. I always like talking food with you guys.
Excellent. Oh, now you can continue your other sentence, which I presume was, and we're not alone tonight because we're joined by a very special guest.
Well, what I was going to say was, I don't really care what week they sort of call this because they haven't even really remotely themed the week. We've got Robert. So
Robert Week.
It's Robert Week here on the Washing Up Podcast. So how have you been, first of all? Let's go start.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've just been doing lots of cake-related things. My life is cake.
And and as I tweeted out on the Washing Up account the other day,
yes,
Kristie is the talent on this podcast. and you assisted with some of this talent on the weekend. There is the creation of, if you go to the Washing Up Twitter account, there's this beautiful rose.
Two beautiful roses, one edible. And we're going to play a little game later on of which one is edible.
Can you eat it?
We're getting that one right.
Yeah.
So Robert was kind enough to tutor me on making a rose out of polymer clay, but he does it with modelling chocolate. So you were doing the modelling chocolate. I did the polymer clay. A lot of people did ask me afterwards, is it edible?
Well,
try. I mean,
yeah.
Good luck.
Well, I learned how to make my chocolate roses by watching polymer clay videos, so it was a nice full circle moment. So it just kind of went back the other way.
Sunrise, sunset.
So yeah, that was a thing that happened, and then we were sitting around yesterday and we're going, we have to have Robert on. We need to get Robert on the podcast really, really, really soon. And then we're like, tomorrow's a podcast night. Let's talk to Robert. So you like us are plowing through episodes of Masterchef. What's your overall impression of the series this year been?
I am a lot happier with it this year than I was last year. Last year, there was not enough justification for decisions that were made.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where I truly believe, I love Masterchef. It's one of the better food shows out there. Sure, it's no Bake Off, but I'm biased as. Anyway, we'll leave that alone. Yeah, but
you can say biased as fuck. We would.
Yeah, totally. But they've done a much better job this year of looking after the contestants in terms of actually giving justifications for the decisions that are made. Because if you're trying to build drama by going, oh, we're going to make this decision, then you make another decision, it just looks like you're favoriting certain contestants rather than actually making a good decision based on food.
Mm.
So they've done better with that this year. There's still a few issues. There's less panna cottas. There was one tonight, but there's less panna cottas.
We'll talk about that panna cotta a bit later.
They're still there, yeah. But overall, I'm a lot happier with this one. It's still got room for improvement.
Do you think,
in the words of
been called a popper panna cotta?
Ooh.
Bubble wrap your pop. Anyway.
No.
Bubble pop.
Yeah, no. Probably caught. So yesterday we open up.
Yes.
And we open up with, of course, the box.
Mm.
I was going to say we open up with Gary doing a Cartman impersonation.
It was.
Welcome to Masterchef.
It really was.
What the hell?
Hey, guys. Screw you guys. I'm going to cook something.
I was just, what? Yeah, anyway.
Ma'am, I want some cheesy puffs.
Martin.
Sorry.
Here's our guest chef for this week. Martin.
And the cat's acting like a dildo. I know a certain kitty that'll be sleeping with mommy tonight.
Yeah. No, we've never seen an episode of the show. We're not fans at all.
Now
anyway.
that Krisie's taken it, where nobody else goes. Yeah. Back to the box. Ironically
the
enough.
Box.
So what we've talked about this a few times, obviously on the show this year, and they've had some interesting ones. They've had some different ones. The everything box.
Yeah, you got to cook everything in it, including the wood. No.
It
No,
wasn't an
that was
everything
Kirsten
box.
Timber.
It was a box of fairly ordinary items. It should have been called the ordinary box. There was nothing everything about it at all.
The last time,
it was just
but the last time they did like what would actually be an everything box, as I said, Kirsten Timber was there, and you actually had to use the box because it was chocolate. That was cool.
I'm so looking forward to her coming back.
Aren't we all? It's kind of one of the highlights of the series, including Massimo Bottura, who's coming up.
Yeah. Having said that, though, they'd better actually friggin' well use her instead of just have her spin a chocolate wheel like a barrel girl and then piss off.
What a barrel girl that was. What a barrel girl.
Anyway.
I can't wait till Maggie Beer comes out and does Adriana Exenides turning letters in a fucking...
I know.
The secret word is verjuice.
That's right. They'll just have Massimo Bottura come in and he'll just do the intro and piss off again because that's apparently how they use the talent.
Don't even kid.
No. It's Massimo Bottura doing bingo. He's just got his little wheel thing that they turn.
And he drops handle. One. Oops, I dropped B47.
That is the lamb cutlet. You need to do that. And now I've gone Russian, but whatever.
You know what to go well on that lamb cutlet?
What?
Parmigiano. It's Massimo Bottura. Right. So you had to use everything in the box. And as I tweeted out last night, it must have taken them minutes to come up with that concept. Now, the disappointing thing there were some people who were obviously more happy with this than others. I kind of got the feeling, for example, and Twitter had the exact same thought at the exact same time, which was, well, we can't really have a lamb layer cake, can we?
You watch her try.
No, I thought at one point there was going to be a red hot go given.
Anushka just going, I wonder if I could turn it into a buttercream.
Well, in fairness, she did layered pastry.
That is right. She's sort of a layer cake. But I'm over.
I love Anushka. I love her so much. She's wonderful.
I'm overlooking the largest question that was asked out of the mystery box.
Why the Brussels sprouts on a stalk?
No. There's a bigger question about the mystery box than even that.
What?
Who did the floors? So...
Okay, so it turns out George has got a Howard Hughes complex. And
he really does.
Really, really germ-phobic, so he keeps up on the cleaning schedule. He's that obsessed with how clean it all is.
It was so bizarre.
I'm sure out the back there's a massive autoclave machine that all the and plants have to go through before they can.
Like he tweezes everything.
Yeah.
But germs can't get up the tweezers. Hop in. But I got a bit worried about it because like George went out of his way to talk about how polished the floors were. And it was all I could think about for the first half of the show is why is George so infatuated with polished floorboards?
He's wondering how he can get the same level of shine for his head.
Who has the buffer?
Just going on the background, George.
Well, by the time he was finished last night, he was sweating enough that he probably could have used a buffer to polish it up. We'll come back to the actual story in a minute, but far more importantly, just guys from MasterChef, I know that it's funny to watch George Columbaris sweat. We don't need 15 million shots of his sweaty head. Not in a cooking show. We don't. I don't need a camera, basically like a GoPro, perched on the back of the Columbaris cranium. We don't need Columbaris cranium
You know
sweat.
what's going to happen next year, though?
They're going to bottle it. It's going to be a challenge.
No, it's sweat cam. It's like they're going to have different angles, like the cricket, and you can go.
They're going to have a cooking with Columbaris challenge. Literally cooking with Columbaris. Just sweat into the dish. Make a broth. So
CV with his head. Poach it on George's head.
Poaching some pears with Columbaris.
Sweat.
But so it was really, that was weird. And then Simon decides to wing it, which is kind of a theme. Now, I identify this because I frequently wing it in the kitchen. Good when you're at home cooking. Not good if you're a contestant on MasterChef.
Unfortunately, if you're a contestant on MasterChef, you're sort of always winging it. I remember years ago reading a Julie Goodwin article before MasterChef probably told her to take it down. But she wrote an article about trying out for MasterChef and the sort of things that you should consider. So one of them was take everything that you have in your kitchen run 50 meters up the back laneway, dump it all in a big pile there, go back to your bare, hollowed out kitchen, get your family to throw any old shit at you, and then work out give yourself an unrealistic time frame with a whole heap of obstacles in your way and camera people in the way. And you've got to try. So it's like, we all know it's tough. It is, but some of the decisions.
She's not wrong.
Yeah,
she's not. She's really not.
Like a couple of times where they've tried to claim, like the memory challenge last week, which she went off on, where they were trying to claim that this is a skill that real chefs need. And I'm like, no. Like, you don't see a dish once and have to remember every single ingredient step by step, drive about half an hour across the city, go into a kitchen and replicate it perfectly, or else you're fired. That is not a thing that happens in the food service industry. So, like,
it might be now that they have to pay the full price. Yeah. They're like, fuck you, we're not even giving you a recipe. You're earning your $15.24 an hour.
It's just... If they want to claim that the challenges are realistic, they should probably be realistic. So, like, yeah, that was the bizarre thing. Now, speaking of, we mentioned Simon and we mentioned about him winging it. So Simon decides, well, fuck technique. I'm just going to take the Brussels sprouts as they appear on the stem, put them on a tray, and put them in the oven. I don't know if this is going to work. They look a little bit like meat on the bone. So I'm just going to cook them like they're meat on the bone. Now,
the logic behind that did my head in.
Where's the marrow? The cooking temperatures are going to be different. The marrow, but apparently he did the greatest job that anyone has ever done in the Masterchef kitchen with any food.
No, I love Gary. Like, Gary's great and all, but if he's like, oh, I've never thought of that, I wonder how that'll work. Okay, he's been lying. A chef on that show for how long? Yeah, he's talking out his ass. So. Like, Brussels sprouts are the same as cabbage, the same as broccoli. It's all the same family, so you know that you can roast the bastards. It's not rocket science. It's
even
pretty straightforward.
Even bloody Matt Preston had shown us how to roast a cauliflower last year.
And as we all know, for those people who may have seen some of the photos from New Year's, roasting a cauliflower goes really well.
So Robert's nodding.
If I can do it.
That works so well for a podcast.
If I can do it, anyone can do it. So, but yeah, you know you can roast it. Gary knows you can roast it.
Yes, but my favourite bit about that thing is like all the people coming up with what it looks like at the end product.
So the answer, and I put this out last night, the answer is a rat king. So what I want you to do right
straight
now.
For the rat king, and I was going to put forward, it looked like octopus eggs.
So what I want you to do, everybody, right now, listening to this podcast, I want you to look up what a rat king is if you don't know. Don't be eating. If you don't know what a rat king is,
go and listening to this first thing in the morning. Maybe give it a couple of hours before you do it.
Go and look up a rat king. So it's when the rats are all born, and it's usually in colder weather, usually in Britain, and. Because of the colder weather, when the rats are born early on, they urinate, and it chills and it sort of freezes them together, and their tails all get entangled and they freeze and they basically die, and they're like a pinwheel of rats. And it's the best way to describe it. And it looks, if you want to know what it looks like, look at Simon's Brussels sprouts, because that's exactly what it looked like.
Can I just point out, like, the Brussels sprouts roasted on the stem is a well-known traditional, bog standard, like, home cooking way of cooking Brussels sprouts. Like,
revolutionary, Robert. Revolutionary.
The only thing is, you normally trim off the leggy bits around it so that you've got like a nice tight little stem.
You make it look good.
Yeah.
Now, they talk frequently about the idea
do you know what? Good on him. Like, he got good flavors and shit, but it just looked creepy.
But they also
not in a good way.
But they talk to you about, first of all, they go flavor is king, but second of all, they're like, you need to, impress us with the eyes, because we're only going to taste 3 dishes, so it needs to look good and not just taste good. And then he put that on the plate, and it looked horrendous. And they still brought him up. Now, this is what made this, for me, that's what made it bad. Flavors were great. Yep. Okay, fine. Not a problem with that. My problem is, they've got 12 left in the kitchen. So what do? Do they now go, we're going to taste everybody? No, they make an announcement and they're like, now we've previously been tasting 5 dishes, but because we're down to the final 12, and I'm like, here they go. We're going to taste all of you and you're going to all be tasting that. We're only going to taste 3.
Now, they went in the wrong direction on that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They should have gone all 12.
Yeah.
Because there's only 12 of them. So in that case then, Simon getting tasted is fine because the look isn't that important. And then if the flavours went out, great, fantastic, well done. But they made a choice of plating.
Yeah, of what looks better. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, it looked interesting. Like, can that be considered like?
I don't.
Good plating.
I thought that there were a couple of other people that were going to get tasted.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it's like that live octopus dish not even live, the dancing octopus dish that you have where you put the octopus on top of the rice as it's cooking in like on a Korean barbecue, and you hit it with the soy sauce, and the soy sauce makes the little legs dance around. Yeah. No one's eating that for the flavour and joy of that. That's all about the look and the gross out factor.
I'm kind of going to suggest that the Bloomin' Barramundi that Joe and I experience is possibly the same thing, but you're eating it because it looks like a weird thing. Well, we saw an attempt at that last night in the second challenge, which we're about to get to.
Yes.
Boy, did that go badly. Anyway. Boy, did that go badly. So
it was a stuffed up snapper.
So before
because it was stuffed up.
It was.
Tailless.
So before we get on to that second challenge, we've already said that Simon won this first challenge. We need to talk about the hero that we all need. The hero that we all deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, Waleed. So Waleed, look, he's had, and we'll talk a bit more about Waleed, obviously, when we get to his elimination tonight. Waleed has kind of become the master of mediocrity in terms of he's been buried in the montage for so long that he kind of skated through. And tonight and yesterday there was a bit of an uncovering that he lacks some of the skills you probably need at this phase of the competition.
And possible common knowledge.
And possible general food common knowledge. No doubt his flavours for the stuff he does make are amazing because some of that stuff looked incredible. But like the artichoke stuff tonight and all those sorts of things, there's some base level things there. And we saw a little bit of it when he was team captain the other day and he just didn't seem to know what a kitchen was in general. Now, part of that was Matt Sinclair being a dick, but we'll come back to that. But Waleed yesterday obviously worked out they were never going to taste him. He doesn't get any airtime. There's no real point in trying. I'm just going to have lunch. So Waleed basically just cooked whatever he wanted, and they cut to him once or twice, and Waleed's just standing in the background, just eating.
I totally cheered when I saw that. I completely cheered. I'm like,
well, as you mentioned tonight, and we've talked about this before, but on Bake Off, you, in the middle of a bake, made your own cheese board.
Well, in fairness, it was the focaccia challenge, and it was the first in the signature, and everyone's got fruit and everyone's got cheese and everyone's got like little bits of ham and stuff around. I'm like, well, I've got 45 minutes. We can't do anything. We're not doing a dipping sauce with this. We're literally staring at ovens for 45 minutes. So Claudia's got a bit of beer. She's got some nice pears. I sliced them up. They go nice with an olive and a bit of feta. And God, it was good. It was the best thing ever. But I'm just like, no, play it cool because nobody wants to see people stressed because if a camera swings around and I'm there stuffing my face, sitting down, looking comfortable, it will not go down well for me. It won't read well on camera.
Kind of like British Bake Off this year that had what's her facey? The woman who brought out her little lunchbox.
Okay. I'll tell you that. Now that's a bit of a trap, and that's British Bake Off being mean to her because every bench, because you're doing 4 or 5 hour bakes, you're standing for a long time. There's a lot of talking beforehand. You don't get a break in the middle of that. So they give you a little baggie of food, a nice little lunchbox with like a juice box and some little snacks in it.
Here's your lunch.
But you might cut into triangles.
They do look after you. I mean, craft services on Bake Off is the most amazing food you will ever eat in your life. I can't even begin to describe it. It's so good. But while you're actually cooking,
apply it now.
Oh my God, yeah. But while you're actually cooking, you get that little thingy. But the trick is, if people are stressed, you can't be seen eating. You've got to plan that shit. That's it. It's just... Anyway.
So
moving on.
He's turned to everyone and just go, look, around 11 o'clock, I get a bit hangry. Can you all just look calm? At that point, I need to just have a few peanuts before.
You just play it cool, like be a bit chill, playing your times.
So then, the second challenge last night, after Waleed had finished eating and Simon had been fated as the new Heston Blumenthal for his revolutionary idea of throwing all of something into an oven.
All I can say is, kudos to the person who first saw those Brussels sprouts like that and went, you know what? I'm going to try cooking and eating this shit.
That's something I would have done.
Well, it's like the same people who first ate an artichoke, like your dad was discussing the other night.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Waleed possibly wasn't the first person to ever eat an artichoke.
Basically an armoured vehicle filled with fibrous, horrific hairs. And then, like, no. And then
again,
once
tonight
you get through all that, it's
the
so
fibrous.
good.
Together, he served the fibrous, horrible bits and left like the edible bit on the tray.
At least he took the choke out.
I mean, people say that about cars too. Anyway, so moving on.
Have you ever driven a car with a choke?
Yes.
So have I. Have you? Yeah. You don't have a choke these days. It's like
good.
Volkswagen.
Dad's old Corolla, the choke almost fall out. It was great.
Had a little mighty boy with a little choke.
Toyota Corolla. It was yellow.
Oh, went really? Corolling along.
Yeah, we had a family history of yellow cars. We went from a yellow Corolla to a yellow Sigma. I know. And the yellow Corolla, when we got rid of the yellow Corolla, there was a lovely red rust paint bit on there to get rid of the rust. So he painted it the red. So there was like one little bit of red on the door. It was this bright yellow Corolla with the brownish sort of interior.
Oh, no.
Oh, and then we replaced it with a brown interior, yellow outside Sigma, which was just as bad as it sounds.
No, from the age of about 3 to 16, our family car was a late 70s blue Tirana. And Dad had cut the rust out of a door and had just grey puttied it and whatever. Bit of black spray paint and it looked like it was hashtagged. And that was it. Never finished the paint job. So that's what we drove.
People never finish those paint jobs.
No, I was so happy when they got a second-hand Commodore with power steering just before I had to learn to drive, because that would have been...
I mean,
it's like, here, drive a Tirana, have some steroids. Maybe you better turn a wheel then.
I mean, I make fun of the idea of the car with the two-tone bodywork, but I did have a Daihatsu Charade, which I then had an accident in, and it was red with a white bonnet because we went down and got the white bonnet and then never got it resprayed. So it was red with a white bonnet. When I traded it in to buy my next new car, I laughed really hard because it barely started. And the guy looked out the door and went, I'll give you $2,000 for it. And we're done. It wasn't worth that as a girder. I mean, like, seriously, which is all you could use it for. I threw the keys at him and I was gone before he could start. Because just before I'd taken it to the car yard, it had taken me 45 minutes to turn it over. And I'm like, this isn't going to start again. Quick, have the keys, run, just go.
What's the bombiest car?
Yeah, what's the bombiest car?
The Holden Chimera, probably the worst car ever made.
Oh, that's saying something.
Yeah, my favourite one was my XF Falcon. Now, that was another bright yellow car. It was the size of a small continent. And
turning circle to match?
You could actually watch the fuel gauge dropping down. It had an electronic fuel gauge, and you'd just see the little bars go dunk, dunk, dunk,
it's like phone
as you're
reception.
driving. Oh, it was terrible.
It's like phone reception.
But it was when they first started good power steering, but they hadn't quite worked out feedback from it. So it was like driving a Sega. Seriously, it was like there was no feedback. So if you sneezed, the car would do a triple backflip because there was you could drive it with one little finger.
Oh.
I loved that car. It was so ugly, but I loved it. It had personality.
It needs personality and character. Last story on the cards before we move on, like the second challenge.
Yeah.
But we took the charade once down to Canberra from Miscellaneous City, and we're trying to come back up one of the hills, and it got a name, and I'm not a big fan of naming cars, but it was named, and it was called Vigo, and the reason it was called Vigo was my brother was in the passenger seat, and it was struggling to get up this hill. And my brothers looked, and he's yelled out just at nature in general. Here's Vigo. You are like the buzzing of flies to him from Ghostbusters 2. And from that point on, the car was Vigo because the hills were like the buzzing of flies. So there was a second challenge last night, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The reason why we're stretching this out is to be in all honesty,
not much to it.
it's kind of a bit shit. So
what are your thoughts, though, Robert? That's just us.
I actually felt really bad for Nicole when she had her oil at the right temperature and then just all the heat went out of it and it went to shit and then the tail fell off. And I'm like, well.
It was kind of the ultimate disaster cook.
Yeah. And then she's saying that, like, I don't eat fish in general. It's not my favorite thing, but she's like, the tail fell off. It's all right. No one really eats the tail anyway. There's not much flavor in there. I'm like, that's the only bit I like. The crispy fins. Nom, 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 nom. That's it. It's the only thing I really enjoy.
So my question is, and you might have a better idea, or you should have a better idea than I do, because you know kitchens better than I do. But when she fried it in just the big pan of oil, should she probably not have, like, I don't know, actually used one of the deep fryers for that, because the temperature is more likely to remain consistent?
No, she was right to do what she did. It's just she didn't have enough power or enough gas coming through. And those benches, they're good, but they're only so good. You can't quite get enough gas through. So when you're at home, if you've got a decent stove, and let's face it, she got money, she got a decent stove. She's used to let's call a spade a spade. She's privileged. So
several degrees.
She's
several university degrees and an honours degree of abandoned health. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but she's the idiot.
When you're used to things just working, you'd expect it to work when you're in the Masterchef kitchen, but you're on a portable bench with a tiny little gas bottle under it. There's no way in hell you're going to get enough heat under a big wok to fry a fish and not lose all the heat out of it. And that's just a privilege working against her.
Well, that's why I was thinking then for that situation, would the deep fry not have been a better solution, like just simply because of the consistency?
It would, but she wouldn't have got the whole fish in it. Like she did the right thing.
You didn't get the whole fish in the wok either. That's why the tail.
Well, you're supposed to move it around and just keep spooning the oil over.
That was the other thing that I was wondering. It looked like she just put it in the oil and then walked away from it.
No, she didn't. She was spooning a bit of oil.
No, but it looked a little bit at one point like she turned back around to the fish, like she'd gone off to do something else and then came back to the fish to go.
That's what
I mean, let's face it. I had the same thing happen. I made my lumberjack cake muffins, and I put my caramel on, wandered away, and thought, no, that's fine, that's reducing down. But the flame was about 15 centimeters off to the side because I've never had to cook outside, effectively outside while making caramel. It's just, it's a privilege working against your thing. It happens. It is. Yeah.
There were a couple of interesting parts of that challenge last night. First of all, we didn't mention, but it was really nice to have a break from Abby in the first challenge. But unfortunately, in the second one, for those playing the drinking game,
so much beautiful.
Beautiful was back on the card, and wow. To give you an idea of how many times the word beautiful was said last night, Twitter wouldn't let me post because it kept on telling me I was posting duplicate tweets.
Well, bitches, you said we didn't go hard enough last week.
Yeah, everyone had a go at us last week about the fact we didn't go hard enough on the card.
So and beautiful that it was.
And the drinking game wasn't hard enough and we left too many things off it. We were trying to spare your livers.
Well, they rested last week, so this week, destroy you.
Last night, the word beautiful was said so many times. The word has lost all meaning. And I feel... Look, people are going to go, oh, you're having a go at Abby. No, I actually feel really bad for Abby because they put
That's her producer letting her down.
They put her in the situation.
And
Surely
the production team letting her down.
Let's listen to Robert. He's been on.
Sorry.
That's all right.
But seriously, seriously, that is her producer letting her down, and that's the production team letting her down. So I've done podcasts with you. You've done podcasts. I run workshops, like cooking and baking workshops, and I've done like adult education and training. You're a teacher. So we are used to presenting and talking in front of people to a point. So we're better able to go, I've picked up a verbal tick here, or I've got a bit of a crutch where I'll say, it's funny because, and I know that I do that a shit ton when I'm talking, so I'm aware of that and try and cut that down. If you've never had that kind of exposure and your producer's not looking out for you, you'll fall upon a crutch like that where you just keep saying the word beautiful. And if they're not paying attention to you because they're, I don't know, just having a bit of a rough day, you'll come off looking bad. Yeah. And that's a failing on, like, their pastoral care needs to sort their shit.
100%. And that's the thing. But by this point of the competition, we're in the 7th week.
Yeah.
By this point of the competition, when every second thing that Abby says is the beautiful this and the beautiful that and the beautiful ingredient with the beautiful this and it's going to look beautiful and beautiful, surely a producer has looked at the first few weeks and gone, we need to get on that. Like, we need to sort of say to her, can we do that a bit differently? Maybe don't keep saying, I don't know if you're aware you're doing it. Just try to use something a bit different. Just change it up a bit.
Gorgeous. It looks delicious.
Yeah, like use different phrasing. And I think that's where that's what I mean when I say they're letting it down. The other reason I felt really bad last night for Abby was they told her that her plating wasn't smooth enough the first time when they went over and said it wasn't pillowy. Now, first of all, that was some really good advice because she changed to what they said to do and they put her through to immunity, which is its own conversation.
But that was the weirdest descriptor ever for a...
Wasn't it?
Pillowy? What?
But more importantly about that, they complained about her plating and said, we want it to look good, and that doesn't look good. We just put through somebody that served the ugliest looking plate of food we've ever seen.
Yeah, but you're forgetting the issue. He has a penis.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I forgot.
Come on. Get with the program. You have a penis. You can get away with an ugly plate of food.
No, I thought that the snapper was actually going to blow up. When she put it into the oil, I kind of thought it was going to blow up at one point. And then rather than blow up, it just sort of collapsed upon itself. The tail fell off. The fish started like collapsing. That was the temperature going, nah, not really. I felt so
And that
bad.
could have been solved by slowly lowering it in, like, bit by bit. But that's a pain in the ass. And when you've got cameras in your face, you've got a clock up there. You're not going to slowly, like, hold it by the tail and drop it in through the nose and just, like, slowly introduce it into the oil so you don't lose all the heat. No one is going to do that.
No, she cannot.
Don't think to. But also, if you've got a stove that you're used to using, which is amazing, and let's face it, Masterchef, they got the best shit going. Like, they just do. They've got good stoves. It's just they're powered by little tiny gas bottles.
I mean, what was really what was a bit disconcerting though about that was they then put so much drama into the fishtail falling off. Like, they built 2 ad breaks around fishtail falling off. Now,
Josh won the internet with the gif of that. That was great.
Now, Waleed and Ben can't get airtime.
No.
But a fishtail falling off gets 2 ad breaks. I asked.
The tail got more airtime than Waleed. That's mean.
It did. And
he's so lovely.
And
Andre the Giant Waleed. He's so lovely.
He's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
And it got more airtime than Ben,
who got through.
Who we need to stop and just acknowledge this moment in history. They were giving out immunity challenge people and they were giving out elimination challenge people, and Ben's in immunity.
You know, there was like, what is it, July, whatever it is, 1969, man lands on the moon. You've got the history dates. Don't leave it to me.
No, I want you to do your history.
19th of February, 1980, I was born. Bloody sometime in the 90s, they found a cure or they made the vaccine for HPV.
Kristie, your grasp of history is about as good as mine.
It's a good thing I'm
some
not.
stuff happened. Some shit was there. It was momentous.
It's a good thing I'm not a historian because this is not killing me whatsoever.
And like, the year 2000, Kathy Freeman was awesome at the Olympics. And then we have on Sunday, yesterday's
Come on,
date.
you can do this. The 9th.
9th of June 2019. Ben makes it into immunity.
Stardate 2019. Ben makes it into immunity. Says more than 3 words in a row. Yeah.
Oh, that was funny.
Look, I got one of those dates right at least.
Now,
when was the moon landing?
So we'll just leave it for there.
Okay.
So, look, Ben making it into immunity is fantastic and wonderful, and Twitter could not be more impressed.
No,
and
if he doesn't win tomorrow night,
I got a message from somebody who's been watching but missed last night's, and they messaged me about what happened with Ben. Is he in elimination again? And I went, actually, immunity. And they went, no.
So this person is not allowed to watch Masterchef anymore when it's coming down to picking people for immunity.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're the bad luck charm that's been holding Ben back.
But what we really need to address out of last night's, there's only one cook that we need to enjoy. Now, first of all, Tessa made everybody drink because she just wasted an ingredient. God, that one's got more drinking, by the way, so far in 2 nights than I anticipated.
What did she start with?
So many people have thrown dishes out.
Crab. Oh, quail.
Yeah, she started with quail.
Oh.
It was beautiful. And then she threw it
quail.
out. And then she threw it out and went to the crab. And that was great. And, wow, everyone got drunk off it. But then Tessa goes, you know what? I'm really pissed with the judges for making me do that. I'm going to make Columbara sweat. Oh, no. So what we got is possibly the moment of the season. Mm-hmm. As George Columbaris utters the phrase, I think I'm going to pass out. As Tessa just loads him up with chili.
Basically, she opened a portal to hell, reached down into its depths, found its fiery heart, and just popped it in this chili crab.
And I loved it because Matt and Gary are just going, this is brilliant, this is great. And George took one mouthful and just about evaporated.
But you know, those spice lovers amongst us are right. Like when something's promised to be chilly and hot these days, and you eat it, and you're like, that's nothing.
When I'm served a plate of like chili something or other, and I'm like, why are you giving me the white people chili? What is this?
Yeah,
this is not. Where's the flavor?
Yeah,
like, just no.
I mean, it was a bold strategy because and you would know, having been, on a show with someone that you don't serve chili to. It's a bold statement to go, we know that Columbaris hates this, but you know what?
I'm doing it anyway.
Bugger it, I'm doing it. Yeah. And I'll give him credit. After he'd recovered, he did say that was delicious.
Yeah, and one thing I'll give him full credit for as well, was it Derek, when Derek did the curry, he's like,
yeah,
it's fine, but it's lacking like spice. If you're going to do spice, I'll live, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, completely.
I kind of wonder, though, if maybe the reason why we didn't have George tonight was that he was in some form of hospital bed after Tessa Ketty, like
sitting on a donut ring.
ring of no confidence, and just obliterating him.
Just a throne of ice packs. Throne of ice packs, enema of milk. Just trying to, just ice cream enema to really cleanse that Columbaris colon.
Now I'll mention,
and there's the episode title.
Cleanse that Columbaris colon.
Oh dear.
It's a long title, but we'll go with it.
Must we? Anyway.
Cleanse that Columbaris. Anyway, so I'll quickly mention here, just in the middle. Next week there will be a special mini podcast episode, I'll be talking to Steve Malk of I think it was Black Box, TV Black Box, talking about
on time.
not that one.
Talking wrong Black Box.
Talking about MasterChef, and in particular talking about the ratings. I put out a tweet today, which Steve had put out earlier, which is the primetime ratings for last night. And yes, it was a public holiday. Today is a public holiday in most eastern states, but MasterChef Australia last night.
Not in Perth.
MasterChef Australia last night did a 489,000 for its rating, easily thumped by everything else, and the ratings are like consistently going down. So I'll be talking to Steve next week, and we'll have a bit of a chat about what's happening, why. We've all got theories. We've sort of put some of these theories out there, but I'm going to have a bit of a chat with him about, what sort of these trends mean for MasterChef, and also looking a little bit more as well at maybe how India and the overseas markets might be the thing that props it up, because that's kind of, I think, where the show might be saved, because otherwise it runs at an extraordinary cost to get those sort of ratings.
Not generally had as much competition. It's been up against the bum end of MKR previously, and usually by that point people have lost the will to live with MKR, and MasterChef comes along as a bit of a breath of fresh air. This year it started up right as Lego Masters was starting up, and if you've got a young family, or if you just happen to really like Lego, it's hard to not be looking at Lego. It really is. We've had 10, 11 years of MasterChef. I want to look at Lego. That's just, I'm doing the maths. I'm like, of course I love MasterChef. I'm always going to watch it, but
Lego.
It's hard. Lego. I mean, come on.
Who doesn't like Lego?
And even The Voice is doing pretty well. The Voice is shit. It's a toilet of a television show, but
look, The Voice's pure purpose this day and age is to produce winners that may go on to go into Eurovision.
But the bigger concern for me out of it, and I said,
it's entertaining.
And I said, we'll talk more about the ratings next week.
Yeah, totally.
Jolt has something to do.
But the biggest problem that I think I have with it is that it's consistently being beaten by house rules.
That's not okay.
Which is not okay, because house rules, as problematic as MasterChef has been, it's a better show than house rules.
I inadvertently saw house rules. You know how? I was going to the drive-through Macca's a few months ago to grab my coffee, and obviously one of the houses is in our local area, because I kept seeing different teams. Jess and Matt and Luke and Claire driving
and
into
the other
Macca's.
one.
Yeah, coming around to do their Macca's runs. It's hilarious.
You're like, I just wanted a coffee. I didn't want a camera in my face.
Yeah.
It's completely bizarre. And I mean, I think there are some reasons for it, and we'll talk about that next week. So that'll be a little mini episode, not replacing the normal two. It'll be a special episode.
What if they mash them together and call it MasterChef House Rules? And not only do the contestants have to compete in the kitchen, but they have to renovate the MasterChef house outside of ours. So, it's like
you get special perks inside the MasterChef kitchen for doing the best job at renovating your room for that
half
week.
an hour on a cook or something.
What's the Channel 9 one? The one that has
the block.
The block. Thank you. That massive show that everybody watched, apparently.
Scott Cam.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually do quite a lot of cooking challenges. Build your kitchen, all right. Now, to get money for the next thing, whoever does the best dish, I'm like, hang on, we've crossed genres here. This is too weird. Yeah.
So we'll move on to tonight, because I'll go in a bit more detail.
No, we're discussing how we can improve ratings by crossing MasterChef with some reality thing. I'm thinking, no.
No, they tried that. It was shit. Remember, they had the printer. No.
No, I'm thinking Paradise MasterChef, where you just get a bunch of young hot singles ready to mingle with cooking skills, and they have to cook in bikinis and stuff.
This feels like a Derek show. More important. I mean, the other option there is Survivor MasterChef.
Oh, even better. Oh, you got to cook. You got to catch your food and then cook it.
Catch your food. Yeah. Catch, kill, cook.
Yeah.
Gourmet. Elevate. Instead of outwit, outlast, it's catch, kill, elevate.
Yep.
That's a podcast title.
As long as we get Anthony Lapalia in to do that.
A lot of seafood served on the half shell.
Oh,
But no one kills Chester the chicken. He keeps surviving.
Because you're hot, and cold. That can be fun.
Yes.
Oh dear.
There'd be a couple of previous MasterChef contestants I think would actually do quite well on that one.
Yeah.
Well, it is the Ponzi hipster thing to be into a bit of foraging nowadays. So
actually, forget even about who would. It's a foraging show.
Khan would fucking kill
Khan
it.
would win. Right? Khan would win that show hands down. The man forages. It's a given. It would be Khan and Kyle in the final.
Yeah. With special guest by Ian from Great British Bake Off a few years ago.
Ian, who's brought all of his own food.
Yeah.
So he's grown everything. So
okay, back at the kitchen
tonight.
Now we can move on. We've explored enough reality crossover.
Oh god, Kristie and I are already at the point where we're like, oh look, squirrel. And now we've derailed Chris.
No, you haven't derailed Chris. Chris has never derailed. Chris,
we need to try harder, Robert.
Chris
okay.
plows along. So
what's that? First car? Anyway, keep going.
I put it this way, I would rather have talked about first car than a lot of last night.
Did I ever tell you the time when I drove a Mighty Boy up Wigram Road, which is a really steep hill in Glebe, and it was dying, so there was smoke pouring out of it. I was going about 5 kilometres up this 45-degree angle.
You know what?
I made it.
You know what? That doesn't sound like a good idea. You know what was a good idea, though? Tonight's challenge. So it really was, actually. I liked it. The 2 sets of cloches.
Yes.
I really liked it.
That was very good.
Except I really wish that people had a bit better imagination when it came to the dishes.
It was a cloche clash.
Because
what will come up under your cloche? Will it clash with the other things?
So we had... Now they opened with, before we get to the cloches, they opened with the weird situation of announcing there was no George tonight. And then Matt and Gary proceeded to do something that I'm pretty sure the MasterChef producers don't want the audience to acknowledge. They enjoyed themselves. And they had a really good time hosting the show. And they were fun. And they were vibrant. And Gary didn't look angry with the world,
or like punchy, like exciting, punchy Gary. You know when he's like overly happy?
No, George. Matt and Gary worked.
Yeah,
and we're not saying this to pick on George Columbaris, but watch tonight's episode back, and seriously, they looked more joyous than they have for the rest of the series. And they've looked more joyous than they were last year. Last year, they were downright miserable. This year, they've been better. But they look so happy tonight.
Yeah. That's lovely.
It felt more engaging.
But get on to Clash Cloche. Come on. Cloche Clash.
Cloche Clash. So, Cloche Clash.
Fanta or crab juice? What's the
anyway,
Clash? You know.
Crab juice or Mountain Dew? I like the crab juice. So Christina, Nicole, and Waleed were in elimination tonight. Christina got first go. She got lamb shoulder and water spinach. Now, I never thought I would find the day when someone saw those 2 ingredients and went, yeah, no, I'm happy with the water spinach, but I might get rid of the lamb. I'm feeling a bit uneasy about lamb.
In fairness, what would you do with the lamb shoulder? Because there's not a lot of fat on a lamb shoulder.
Well, you clearly, as Derek showed last week, you can break anything down to ribs, even if there's no rib. Even if there's no rib involved. Even if there's no rib involved, it could be a shoulder. I don't care. It's now a rib.
Could you imagine, like, if somehow Derek became Adam, right? When Adam and Eve were born, and God's like, I have to take a rib. And Derek's like, what, this? And God's like, no, that's a spleen. And he's like, what, this?
Patella.
Like, no, that's patella. What about this? No, that's your thyroid. Like, just
offering body parts, none of which are ribs.
But all of which
God.
Yeah. I had another point too, and it's gone out of my head. It'll come back. I'll just
yeah,
over you.
But what I would have done with that lamb shoulder is I would have got a bit of a fillet off it, frozen it, sliced it really thin, and then just stir fried it and chosen a cuisine to go with. So I could have gone Thai, or I could have gone down a Vietnamese kind of road, or although Vietnamese and sheep not really quite the
Maybe
same, but
like some Chinese or
yeah,
that kind of Tibetan, like Nepali.
oh
kind
yeah,
of.
Nepalese would be a good one.
We're all missing out on the idea of Szechuan lamb.
Oh yeah.
Of what?
Szechuan lamb. We're all missing out on the idea of
Perfect, and then
Sorted.
you balance it off with your water spinach, and yay.
Yeah, but I've got a point. It's come back to me now. I'm pretty sure if we rewind back to the first week, and it was one of the first challenges where Christina got lamb, and she was the one who didn't want to cook lamb not because she was like couldn't, she just didn't like it.
she doesn't eat it. That's right.
Yeah.
So her thing was I don't eat lamb. So therefore, now we'll come back to that in 1 second, because she went again with the cloche, and she got duck. So that's a win.
Well,
Look,
people want ducks.
That's a win, and duck's always a win.
That goes out to you, Kim Spicer.
It goes out to everyone who likes. There's a couple of get this ends out there.
Oh,
We had a long
rock and
conversation.
roll.
We had a long conversation today on Twitter that involved talking about Grant Spatchcock.
Oh.
Anyway, get this ends out there going nuts, and everyone else is going, "Who the fuck's Grant Spatchcock?" Don't have time.
The girl's happy.
When you ring him up, ask him about his ad. So Nicole. Now Nicole, for her protein, got tofu.
Don't mean Jews.
So out of context, that sounds really wrong. So Nicole got tofu and coffee. Now
that sounds like a delight.
In fairness, I can't think of a lot you could do with tofu and coffee. She was right to swap one.
So she decided to repick both. Now, in hindsight, yes, she got grapes to go with rabbit, which she got. But if she'd kept the coffee,
that would have been delightful.
Coffee and rabbit, good mix, really good.
Oh yeah.
So, like, that was the fun when she picked. They didn't specify that if you said you wanted to repick both, they didn't specify that you couldn't go. Actually, I'll keep that one now because that one works. They didn't specify if you could or couldn't. I think everyone just assumed you couldn't. So she repicked and got rabbit and grape, which is still not a bad combination, although we didn't see evidence of it on Nicole's plate.
No.
Because by the time she finished, she wasn't worried about the grapes. Her hand was stuck to the pan.
I felt for her.
I felt really bad for
flashbacks
Nicole
to
on
Huda.
that one. Yeah, flashbacks to Huda.
I've done that as well. And I've done that at home. Just trying to get food out in time, and then you're like, yeah, there's a reason you always put a tea towel over a hot handle. But anyway.
I nearly did that tonight because I did some steak with some amazing Mama Joe's rubs, by the way, and not sponsored. Actually, legitimately not sponsored, but just mentioning them because damn it.
We're big fans.
Exactly, we're big fans, and I put we were talking on Twitter tonight. And someone said, I've never really done it. Who puts a frying pan into the oven? And I'm like, yeah, all the time. Do the steak, put it in the oven, finish it in the oven. So you get the searing and then you actually get the
it was a nice thick one from Coles.
It was a really nice. It was a really nice steak. And
Chris served up big thick meat to me tonight.
I did, and it was all covered in Mama Joe's rub. Anyway, so this episode's gone south. But
it was already there.
I pulled it out. I had the handle. I had one of the handles covered in a tea towel, and the other one I didn't. And I thought I had both of them, and I've grabbed it. And I've gone to grab it. My hand was about to touch it, and I've gone, "Oh no, don't do that!"
Yep, it's so easy to do.
Centimeters, millimeters away from disaster there.
The upside, though, is you're doing that at home. You don't have 4 cameramen and the producers shouting at you inane shit.
And then she
just that. I might be in the background with the cats, just trying to put some pressure.
Oh, you're too lovely.
Push.
No, she'd film that. She would film it. The other thing that I thought was really fascinating compared to everything else they've done in terms of all the other proteins and all the other types of food was they went out of their way to go, oh, and by the way, Nicole, that's ethical rabbit.
They caught it
ethical rabbit and polished floorboards. They've got weird focuses.
They caught it during rabbit season, not duck season.
Not duck season. It was rabbit season. It's important. It's important.
Kill the rabbit. Kill the rabbit.
And then we got to the third round of Cloche Clash. And Cloche Clash round 3.
That's where George was. He was hunting rabbits. Very
bald head, sweating a lot.
Trying to catch him.
It's all fun.
Catching them with tweezers.
Speech impediment.
Waleed, so if you could pick one thing that you wouldn't want Waleed to get out from under a cloche, why is it bacon?
Just another aside. Does that make Matt Preston Foghorn Leghorn?
I say it.
Who would Gary be?
Oh, God.
Oh, he's Crispy Crackling. He's got to be Porky Pig. Okay, there we go.
No. And by the way, you've got Matt Preston wrong.
Why?
Yosemite Sam.
Really?
Yeah, because he's that overboard with the clothing as well. It's the clothing.
He doesn't have the moustache going or guns.
But he doesn't. I say a boy.
Yeah.
That's really all Foghorn Leghorn's got going for him. But he's always trying to seduce the older matron, and that's not really a Preston kind of thing.
Look, it's a hen he'd like to a gilf.
Ugh.
A grandma hen.
Gary would be a cross. Gary would be a cross between Porky Pig and Yosemite Sam, because Yosemite Sam gets really excited for no apparent reason. So that's very Gary. Exactly. So poor Waleed gets bacon, and they go, "Ooh, Waleed, bacon. That's a problem for you." And he goes, "I can cook it.
I just can't eat it.
And then he got truffles.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, everyone went into meltdown about the fact that Waleed had just pulled, the luckiest thing out ever.
Like, what doesn't that go with?
And Waleed looked at it and went, "No, I'm getting rid of it."
Oh, you know what?
In fairness, truffles can be a real bitch to use, because if you overuse them, you just end up with something that tastes like perfumey mushrooms.
And I'll give Waleed a credit, because Waleed did say, "I don't really know how I'd use them."
Yeah.
And you know what? Good on him. He probably knew that we had the drinking
game and the fact that he might ruin it. Although, do we kind of count the artichokes? Because all right, so we went with venison and globe artichokes is what he got on his second try. The artichoke thing, Robert, discuss. What worried me, just quickly, was the fact that when Sandeep told him off the gantry about using the artichoke, unlike normal where it felt like advice where they're like, yeah, of course, it actually felt like this was brand new information to Waleed.
Well, like David Chang says, you can't know everything. There's a lot of stuff people just might not come across.
Yeah.
And, I mean, how often have you actually cooked artichokes yourself?
No, I'm better at eating them and buying them marinated and putting them.
Oh, yeah.
I like those sandwiches, like toasted sandwiches. Like my favorite toasted like lunch thing, right, is Turkish bread with marinated eggplant, chicken, like boiled chicken, some mushrooms, cheese, and some Spanish red onions. Now, if I can't find the eggplant because some fucking stupid supermarkets don't have it, I'll just throw in the artichoke instead. So,
yep.
Yeah, that's good. Just
I'm the king of excuses for everyone, though. I can always find an excuse for someone to make it all right. But come on, it's an artichoke. You got do a little bit of study before you go on a cooking show and know if you get faced with this, how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah. And that's more my point.
From the first challenge, they kept talking about Ben's Kaiserfleisch, and I'm like, what kind of Nazi bacon is this? I don't understand. So I'm like, the fuck is Kaiserfleisch? So anyway,
Look, to be quite honest,
you can't know everything.
This kind of Nazi is a dead Nazi, so we may as well use their flesh for something.
Oh dear.
The thing for me though with that is that at the very least know what, like with an artichoke, there's a high chance it's going to appear at some point, and know what is edible and what's not. That's my only thing on that. Right? Not even know necessarily how to prepare it all, but know what isn't. And the other thing was, and again, there's time pressures and cameras.
If you've never done it before, though, it is shocking how much crap you just throw in the bin.
True,
and
but
you get left with, you've got a big globe artichoke, and you get left with this tiny little thing the size of a small marble. You're like, where's the rest of my artichoke? This was a crap artichoke.
In the compost.
So, true, but they also did then tell him what to do. He did it, and then served the other bit anyway, not the bit.
Yeah, I think we were all Anushka.
I think everyone was Anushka at that point. But the other thing that Waleed did tonight, and you have pointed out many times that, there's an overreaction, but we all know why there's an overreaction. We need a warning from Masterchef whenever somebody says they're about to make a velouté.
Artichoke velouté.
Because this velouté came from nowhere. And, yeah, it's a simple sauce. But in Masterchef terms, we all know what the connotation is behind velouté. And they've even referenced it on the show this year. Like, it's not like this, as we said the other day, the beast has become sentient and knows it's very self-referential this year. And velouté is part of that. So
I reckon, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what, velouté with artichoke sounds like the stupidest thing ever. But it's pretty much your mum's white sauce and silver side. You've got something a little bit pickled flavored and something a little bit bland and white, cheesy, saucy flavored, or white. Yeah, but no, that's not a MasterChef dish. No, please no.
Oh, you know, my mum used to take that white sauce blandness to another level and pour it over cauliflower.
Nice.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm assuming there was just a lot of flour in hers too, so it was really
Actually,
bland.
she used to make a really good white sauce in the microwave. Like, my mum's not good with a lot of things, but her white sauce was pretty good, and so was her caramel slice.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Let's not mention the chicken stroganoff, which is still horrific.
Well, remember, be nice to me, or I'll get her to bake it for us. Make it.
So
I don't know. It's getting late. Let's keep going.
Yes. So
plow on,
everybody.
Let's get rid of Waleed so we can get to the people.
So let's get rid of Waleed so we can bring back Waleed. So
let's get rid of him so we can bring him back.
Basically, everyone cooked, and Christina just cooked, and nobody really bothered about her. Nicole tried to burn her hand off and served what was somewhat
didn't look
disappointing.
But you can understand why.
But then far more importantly than all of that is they both almost looked over at Waleed and thought to themselves, well, we're okay. So poor Waleed. Look, he's a lovely guy, but poor Waleed. Now, I did enjoy it as part of the judges having more fun, the tweezers. When they both produced a set of tweezers and then proceeded to swap food in bowls with the tweezers and go this is the way you do it, now you do that, and you do this, now you do that. And that was
delightful.
They were enjoying taking the piss out of George, something fierce. It was great. Waleed was clearly the problem. Mm-hmm. They tasted it and went, no, we don't have to argue. And again, we talked about this before, and you referenced it before, Robert. I like that this year, when there's been a really obvious decision, they haven't screwed around and gone, oh, well, it could be. They've just gone, yeah, we all know how this ends. Yeah, we all know how this ends. All right, let's go do it. I'm happy with that. That's been really good. Then they go, now, normally you go home, but you've got to compete with these people. And everyone reacts like, oh, my God, this is amazing. I can't believe this is happening. But it's top 12. It always happens. Every year, without fail, we get to top 12, and we bring the old contestants back for second chance. So you knew it was coming. You had to know it was coming. We know that a lot of those people have, lived that show.
Well,
I think that it's really lazy editing as well, because you know what's going to happen, because otherwise they wouldn't have given Tim so much airtime at the beginning of the show just to can him halfway through.
Yeah, and
there's no way in hell we would have had such a Tim-heavy beginning of the show for him not to come back.
And tonight,
no way.
Tonight was the same thing. When they gave him then all the coverage tonight, and they tried to give Yostra a bit of coverage.
And Jess, I was so happy Jess was getting coverage, that she was doing well, although I didn't like the shade that was thrown at some other people who are friends of the podcast.
Yes, there was some shade thrown at friends of the podcast we don't appreciate. But anyway,
a little bit shady there, Matt.
Yes, we'll leave that we'll leave that there. But it was interesting because, Jess, they gave her airtime.
She's great.
And she came out and tried to do something with a bit more technique and a bit more character.
Kick-ass fucking earrings.
That was really cool.
Jess, Yostra and Mandy all have such huge personalities, and it was completely wasted on MasterChef.
Mandy's amazing.
They did not utilise them as well as they could have.
Mandy's put out a couple of, if you've been on Instagram and seen some of Mandy's Instagram live stuff in the last week or so especially, she's done some amazing stuff on Instagram Live, which has been really good fun. And
she knows her stuff.
Like, she's great. Said Jess the same thing. Yostra was completely wasted on the show. And then there are you know, a couple of people that had similar sort of things where, like, you can tell there's like Monica got zero time at all. Like, when Monica got eliminated, they did that out of the blue.
Yeah.
They didn't give her any lead-up time. They didn't give her anything. Then in her elimination episode, about 5 minutes before she gets eliminated, they decide to briefly talk to her.
Yeah.
And then eliminated her.
Well, the other thing, too, is tonight, and you kept going, can you remember the name of the guy that was eliminated, the other part of the Bromont? And I'm like,
I know his name. I'm one of the few people in Australia that knows his name.
And we have Blake. Remember the other ninja?
Yeah, remember when Blake was a thing?
Robert said blinking like, no. I have no idea.
I feel really bad because I don't remember seeing Blake tonight.
And
I wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup.
He only appeared once, and that was to hug Tim.
Yeah, you didn't see him.
After
that was
Tim
the
got
point.
his apron.
I blinked and I missed it. That's not fair on Blake.
He stood in the front row.
He didn't even make the montage of mediocrity.
No, he wasn't in the montage. They never even asked him what he was making. Right? Like, forget making the montage. He didn't make it into the. So what is the dish? He just.
Yeah.
Do you think he's just given up on food and he actually didn't cook anything?
Him and Waleed.
Dreams were shattered.
Hey, Blake, I've got a really good idea. Why don't you take another week and a half off work? Get on a plane, fly over to Melbourne, hang out with us for, spend 12 hours a day standing on your feet watching everyone else cook. And really cook your heart out, and we'll show you for an eighth of a second if you're lucky.
Anyway. You didn't even get an eighth of a second. It was that bad. So poor Blake got nothing. Yostra they tried to use as like one of the balancing things to try to make it look like Tim wasn't, but it was quite clear that Yostra wasn't going to go through.
I was annoyed because Jess looked like she'd actually fucking progressed. Like, she'd gone out, she'd gotten some work experience. She's like, oh, I need oil on this and blah, 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 and I want some peppery taste, so I want some of this plant I've never heard of in my life.
That was the thing. The one thing that did irritate...
Shiso is amazing. Like, Japanese parsley is the shit. It is so
Japanese
good. Anyway.
All right.
The one thing that annoyed me, only thing that annoyed me about Jess was when the oil thing annoyed me because she made it sound like that was a secret that is only known to the restaurant she's done work experience at. We're not going to name them because, again, shade to friend of the show. We're not going to talk about that. But she's like, oh, I realize after doing my work experience here that if you don't have oil on the grill, things will stick. No shit. That's cooking 101.
Yep, that's great. But let's get on to just being awesome and going, yep, I'm going to use those fucking plums. Simpsons plums.
Davidson plums.
Patterson plums? No?
Davidson.
Keep inventing names, guys. Keep inventing names.
Some fucking last name plum. And she's
Davidson plums. Yeah.
Davidson plums. And then her apron at the end of it looked like she'd been in a murder scene, which is great.
What disturbed me about that is Gary going, oh, I wasn't sure how those plums were going to go with the tuna. They're very acidic. I'm have you never heard of fucking umeboshi? Seriously, Japanese super salty, super sour plums and tuna is a thing.
Wow.
Anyway.
I'll take it back to even basics when they're fruit and tuna. I don't know if that'll go together. What's fucking lemon? Is that just... it's a fucking fruit. Shit a brick, people. Anyway.
See, I'd looked away and I just saw that come up on Twitter where they were talking about fruit and tuna. So I was thinking about 9-10 years ago, there used to be a real trend for one of the big chefs did a prawn and strawberry salad, which when you've got years of experience and you know your shit, you can do well. Unfortunately, all the gastropubs in Perth thought that this was a good idea. So you've got some half-wit who's only done 2 years of work experience working in a pub kitchen, putting together sweet strawberries with shitty cooked prawns. And just not good. This was in
you meaning the term gastropub.
I like to think that's
gastropub. What gives you gastro?
One of the poorer cousins only had tinned shrimp and some strawberry jam. Mixed it together, whack
So,
that on a
you
plate.
see, I thought that that's what they meant. I'd looked away and I didn't realise that they were talking about Davidson plums. That's not like fruit and thing. Davidson plums it's like a lemon flavoured plum, like that level of sourness. It's not. Just the fact that they even questioned it does my head in. But anyway,
that would balance.
seriously, yeah.
So, mizzo butter.
Oh,
Because you know what? As Monty Python once said, I can't tell the difference between this mizzo butter and a dead crab.
look, you got to go down to the bizzo and have some mizzo.
I got my mizzo butter on the go, and the mizzo butter is going to be great with the mizzo butter and the steak. And the steak and mizzo butter is going to be just incredible. And I've been to Japan, and it's mizzo.
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced in Japan, Robert?
No, not even close. It's not how it's pronounced in broken English or, here's the thing. We all mispronounce words. It doesn't matter who you are. We all mispronounce words. We all do it. We all anglicize things. We all destroy stuff. And it's easy to get on your high horse about it. But
I'd like to get
where the fuck do you get a Z from in miso? And in Japanese, it's miso. But, it's not that far from English. How do you get mizzo?
That was
vaguely... Yeah.
It's not a mispronunciation. It's just wrong. And that was the bigger problem for me. It wasn't like if it's a mispronunciation and it's slightly out, fine.
But this is why George and Gary love him so much.
It was half a step away from him saying wacko the diddly-o.
That's it. I know what's happened. He's colloquialized fucking miso. He's just he's starting the flame and crows.
It's wacko the diddly-o. I'm going to have some mizzo.
And this is we liked him. It's fun to pick on him, but we liked him. It's just
T-Bone.
He makes it too easy sometimes.
For example, the return of the narrator tonight, which I didn't realise how much we enjoyed not having two narrators. And then we got our second narrator back, and I'm like, oh God, oh no, we can't do this again. And then my concern about this was, as I said, a few people have already reached out saying, I really loved him, but that dish, really?
And this is where it got fucking sketchy as
because he was going to make a twirl. Sorry, Joe, didn't want to say it. Going to make a twirl. And
so was Joe.
Yeah, no. And so he was going to make
Masterchef. You can't make steak without a fucking twirl. It's Masterchef. You've got to have a twirl with your steak. He
tried the mizzo twirl twice. I love the fact he couldn't say miso, but could say twirl.
I'm surprised he didn't call it a
twirl.
A mizzo twizzo.
A mizzo twizzo.
Or a mizzo twirly.
Twirly.
Maybe mizzo twirly.
Yeah.
Mizzo twirly.
Maybe mizzo twizzo is a better.
That's a rap name.
That was a better name for the podcast episode tonight.
Mizzo twizzo.
Colin Barris's colonoscopy.
For shizzle, my mizzo twizzo.
I was thinking Cloche. I was thinking Cloche Clash, but I think mizzo twizzo gets it.
Is good.
I think mizzo twizzo gets it, but it's
faux shizzo.
Faux shizzo with his mizzo twizzo, and his mizzo twizzo failed.
While listening to Lizzo.
It failed though.
It ain't his fault if he's out here cooking twizzos and I do a bad Lizzo.
The three people who love Lizzo loved it. But we got then a run of Tim. And they didn't even hide it. They didn't pretend. They basically let you know from moment one. Remember how good Tim was? How good's Tim?
We haven't had him here for an episode.
In fairness, I think that they needed to do it because what he cooked was very simple. And if they hadn't have,
boy, did they talk
everyone would have been up in arms. So maybe they did take a note and they went, oh, fuck, how do we justify, parsnip chips, parsnip chupe, and steak mushrooms? And, it probably was the most delicious thing they've eaten. It was probably the most delicious thing they ate that night, but it's hard to show that. I wanted to see the other contestants. We're going to see a shit ton of Tim. Can we have a look at some of the others?
And I want to believe that, Robert. I'd really like to.
So do I. I like to live in this fantasy world.
Are not biased and they have nothing against people with vaginas and don't have a fetish for Aussie white men, just blokes, and want to assimilate more into their blancmange. But I can't. I really feel like at the end, they just should have gone, Jess, look, you had beautiful tuna, but Tim, he had a penis. And that's what really counts here.
Here's the thing.
The big old wang between the legs.
Jess did an amazing job, and the other one legitimately was Yosra.
Mm-hmm.
Because Yosra made dumplings in a completely different style to how they're traditionally made, was told by the judges that won't work. The judges then ate them and went, you know what? You nailed that. That's brilliant. We would never have thought of doing that. That's technique. That's skill. That's ability. Jess demonstrated technique, skill, and ability. Tim served something he served very similar versions of previously.
It's getting a bit Ben Borscht.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say that was a Borscht effect.
And again,
another episode title.
And that's not a shot at Ben Borscht. But the problem with that was that they took Ben too far to the end doing the same thing. And poor Ben, again, that impacted him in the grand final last year, obviously.
Yeah, and in fairness, Tim does have a bit more range.
He does.
All of them, if they're on the show, they're probably amazing. You can't get through the auditions if you're not actually skilled in some way.
There was a weird cult-like atmosphere, though, around Tim.
It was
the standing ovation.
I am extremely happy George wasn't there tonight, because could you imagine the sausage party that would be going on? It's just so fucking. Oh.
I wanted to see Jess come back in after the technique demonstrated. I thought that was right. I'm not saying that Tim doesn't have the ability. We all know he does, but it kind of the way they presented it tonight, and again, not even on the contestants, back to the production team again. It felt like a fait accompli before we even got to the episode that Tim was going through. And the way they promoted it, the way they showed it, the way they did everything in the lead up to it, the narrative they set, it felt like he's the one going through and we're just going to build the narrative now.
And I get what you're saying, Robert, about them having to justify why he's through, with this steak and mushies and stuff. But it just came off sounding like, oh, it was just the best and we have to kind of say it's the best so that people don't think that we're, picking favourites.
Now, but the other element to consider here, last season, Brendan Pang got sent home for serving a steak that was blue. And they told him that steak was far too raw. You cannot serve blue. You cannot do that. I do not believe for a second that what Tim served tonight was rare. It was closer to blue than rare. Yeah. It is the barest of margins, but if Brandon Pang can be sent home for serving what was essentially raw, they said it was nowhere near cooked enough. And then this year when Tim does that, look at the technique. It's the consistency thing.
It wasn't as obviously blue as Brandon Pang's
was. It also wasn't what he said it was.
Just could have been thrown back in the paddock.
But also, it doesn't matter how rare it is, so long as when you chop through it, it doesn't bleed all over the plate. If it's still pumping blood when you're chopping through it, there's a problem.
If you put it down and start milking it, something's a bit wrong.
Yeah. As long as the protein's set, then I'm all right with that. Yeah. So again, I've got to stop just making excuses for everyone because, like I said, I just want everyone to be happy.
That's why we got you on tonight, because we need positivity. Kick people's weeks off with some positivity.
Oh, don't worry, I'm salty as with some things, but
we just don't hit them. So
yeah.
So thank you for coming on and making it this moment of brightness, because we kind of needed it. It's been awesome as always. Have you got anything you need to plug? Any of your more modelling things? Any more?
I'm appearing in the Australian Sugarcraft magazine, so that's facebook.com/Australian Sugarcraft. I think.
We know that.
Yep. Sounds good. So So I've got lots and lots of recipes in that one. I'll be at the 20th National Seminar. So that's the Australian National Cake Decorators Association. We've got demonstrators from all over the world coming, some of the best demonstrators from Australia. So there'll be people like Dorothy Clarick, there's Serta Yenna, there's Julia Usher. There are incredible. If you're a cookier or a caker, those names are like holy snapping duck shit. If you're not, you're like,
if you're
okay.
a candlestick maker, no one for you.
Yeah. But these are big names, and I'm so lucky I get to demonstrate alongside them as well. So I'll be demonstrating modelling chocolate people, and I'll be showing my modelling chocolate orchids, which I've not released anywhere yet. So that's kind of exciting. The only other thing is, if you want to look at some pretty cakes, check out facebook.com/Robert's Cakes and Cooking. Or check me out on robertscakesandcooking.com. That's all the plugs I've got to give.
There we go. And that,
no more plugs.
And we will allow you to do that quite happily. Thank you again, Robert, for coming on. It's been wonderful as always. Until Thursday night.
Yeah.
I'm still Chris.
I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all then.
I'll forgive and forget if you say you'll never go. Yes, it's true what they say. It's better the devil you know